Alrighty, welcome to the Athlogic podcast. My name is Chris Orlando, the co-founder and director of marketing at Athlogic. So we offer a free sports analytics app to track high school football stats, which teams gain an edge from, gives their athletes an increased exposure to college recruiters. And we want to be a resource for coaches to help them improve their teams. So we're going to dive into the game of football. We'll talk about how coaches are kind of using analytics to gain a competitive advantage and really what they're doing to help their kids get recognized. We also will have a chance at some point to talk to some NFL greats and kind of get a different perspective on where the game's going. But it's my pleasure to introduce you to my first guest tonight, Coach Anthony Ciarlello. Ant's not only the head coach of my alma mater at Phoenixville High School, but not only that, Ant is a former teammate of mine on the greatest team in Ursinus College history. So, Coach, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Coach Orlando. 96 Bears, let's get it done.
Yes, sir, buddy. The good old days, my friend, the glory. I remember them often, as you can see from the background.
Remember it all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's just kind of start off. Let's give the audience a little bit about your background, kind of tell them your journey in coaching and how you got here.
Not a problem. So after my last year at Ursinus, I knew the game was done with me, but I wasn't done with it. There were some opportunities to play overseas, but my body was just racked. So I knew I had to get into coaching. I was just loved the game. The game did a lot for me. So I got involved with jobs that allowed me to coach after school. A lot of odd jobs here and there, but nothing that I could call a career. So eventually I wound up getting into education because I figured if I'm going to coach high school football, teaching high school would be the way to go. So I putzed around as like an alternative school teacher while coaching at a Catholic school in the Norristown area, Kenny Kendrick Catholic High School. No longer there. Now it's shut down and joined forces with another school to become Pope John Paul II in Royersford. But I finally took my education seriously, went back, got my degrees because, again, you can't be a good role model for kids, especially my football players, if I can't impart on them the more important part of the student-athlete part, which is student. So I went back, got my master's, my teaching cert, went back, got a second master's, and wound up, jumping around from team to team. I spent some time at Harriton High School in Lower Merion School District, jumped over to Upper Darby area high school, coached there for a few years. Wound up at Norristown for a few years, started teaching there. I'm still teaching there now, but now I'm at Phoenixville area high school where my home resides and my kids go, and my wife is an alumni from. So that's kind of my football path. The game has done a lot for me, and so have the men. I got lucky, and I got surrounded by a lot of great men in this game that used the sport to help me become a better person. So that's kind of my path.
That's a beautiful thing, my friend. How different is it being a teacher at one school and a coach at a different school?
So I was only ever so I would say twice I've been a teacher at the school I coached at. And depending on how well you do, it could be a good thing. And if you're not doing great, then the kids, they see you all day and they know how painful it is. So I have a close enough connection to my players at Phoenixville. They know that I have people watching. They understand my expectation of them as students and what I allow and I don't allow. We've built a very strong culture in the program over the last 5 years, and they know the expectations. Being there, I think, would be great, but I think that we have created something very strong that even if I'm not there, they know I'm there.
That's a great thing, my friend. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So you took over as the head coach during the COVID year, right, where you guys had a shortened schedule, 2-2. So last year was really your first full campaign, right?
At Phoenixville, my first year as a head coach at Phoenixville, full campaign, yes.
Okay, nice. What was how was the difference from year one going to year two?
So year one was it was COVID. We had a lot of restrictions, a lot of maybe nots, a lot of possibilities. So we definitely started our culture build with where it left off, but we added the aspect of this. You're not granted or given anything. Each day is a gift. and you have to fight for each day, which we had to, because there was a day where we were told one day we're not playing anymore. 2 days later, we're playing our first game. So we played each day like we weren't going to get the next. And I think that kind of kicked off the mentality we have now, because a lot of those kids were freshmen and sophomores at the time. Now they're juniors and sophomores, and they still live by that adage. We aren't given anything. We might not play this weekend, and I think it helped to push our mentality into a better place. I know it was at a difficult time. They really used it to their advantage. They didn't find it, they didn't find all the negativity during that time as an excuse. The adversity was there, but they used it to their advantage. I mean, we really, show up and do the work was kind of our mentality, and they did, even though they know there may not be a gift at the end of the day, because sometimes in life you don't get a gift. Sometimes you work all day, and at the end of the day, you just got done working. And that's all they knew they had. They had the work. And if they did the work, good things could happen.
Very, very true statement. I know that they always say that the game is 90% mental, 10% physical. So obviously going through COVID was a huge mental challenge for you guys. Was there anything that you guys did differently because of that, kind of from a mental standpoint, just doing a wellness check on the athletes and kind of coaching them up?
Oh yeah, we were constantly on our social media pages. You were constantly talking to each other through text messages. One thing we did was I took I don't know if I can talk about it, but I started reading a lot of John Gordon. I don't know if you know who John Gordon is.
I do not.
John Gordon's author, wrote a book called The Energy Bus.
Okay.
And it really is about just positivity and negativity. Positivity doesn't mean you're going to succeed, but it means that you're putting yourself in a position to do so. Negativity will guarantee you failure. And we talked a lot about this idea of positivity, about who's on your bus and why. And we carried that into like his other aspects. He wrote a book called The Hard Hat, about 21 ways to be a great teammate. And we kind of spent that year every day looking at a different way to be a great teammate. And we use those ideals to keep ourselves focused. One ideal is sweat more. Did you sweat more than your teammates? Did you do something in your running and your work ethic that made your teammates look at you and say, I can do more? Well done is better than well said. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. Things like that. And every day was a different ideal. We were able to build, because we only had about 21 days of football. So every day that year, we took an ideal and we made it our own. And every day I said, look, we might not be here tomorrow for 22, or we might not be here tomorrow for 12. Let's take what we have now and make sure we're doing the right things. And I think that focus really carried a lot of these dudes into a good place.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's the life lessons. I've always said that I think every kid should have to play an organized sport at some point in their life growing up, just because of all the different life lessons that you learn while you're doing it. It's amazing. Yep. So you went from COVID year to your first full year. This is year 2. Yes. What are kind of like the biggest challenges that you're now facing now that you got a little bit of time under the kids kind of understand where the program's at, where you're trying to take it? What are your current challenges that you're kind of facing?
We fight success. That's probably one of our biggest challenges. We fight success. We can't seem to, before I got there, before I was the head coach, I started in 2018 as a D-back coach. And before I started, the previous 6 years weren't the greatest at Phoenixville. Yeah. A lot of 3-win seasons, maybe 4-win at the most. Even the 18 and 19 year below 500. We made it to the playoffs, but we were 4-6. And, one of the challenges is that I try to let these guys know, we got 2-2 that first year during COVID, right? 2-2, best record we had percentage-wise in since 2012. And I was like, look, good job. We're 500, not a losing record. Wasn't great, but I took it. Next year, we're 5-5. So last year at the end of the season, I said, guys, look, we can't live at 500. That's not, you visit it. You visit 500. We have to go find winning seasons. You have to go live in winning seasons. And finding success is tough. We fight it. Game 1, we're up 13-0 in the first quarter, and all of a sudden it's like, why'd we stop? Game 2, we came out, we did a little bit better. It's almost like we fight success. We're 3-2 right now. We have a tough game Friday, and we're looking to continue to push. We set goals, and I think that sometimes it's the fighting of the success. I just don't understand that aspect of it, but we're trying. We have a character coach. It's a pastor at a local church that comes and sees us every once a week. He comes and visits, talks just nothing about God. It's not about God. It's more about just getting your head right, trying to focus on what the things are we have to do to get what we want, and how we have to be able to understand perspective. And it's been helpful for us. I think it's been good for us. But that success, man, we just fight it. I don't know why. They don't grab it as much as they should. They talk about it, but we don't attack it as well as we can.
It's funny that you say that. I remember the lean years in Coach Gray, who is one of my best friends since we were little kids. I remember him wanting to strangle some people with how the team was performing. And I remember we had, and speaking of the 500 rule, Coach Shirk, who I had in high school, who I love dearly, we had a goal. The first goal was 6. Get 6 wins so the senior class goes out with a winning record.
Yeah, that's a great rule. I might actually instill that after this year, use that as a kind of a model, just because I think they have to know that. And I don't think anyone's ever explicitly told them that. Like, I think it's been a while since someone's told kids, you can't be 500 or less. Not because winning's everything, but if you're going to work hard, at least have something to show. I mean, be going for what you're working for. You spend 8 months in a weight room for what? To be 500? Not now. Let's go. Get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think it's truly, and like I said, I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head and really focusing on the mental aspect of it. I remember it was probably before you got to Ursinus. So the year I transferred in from Rowan, my junior year, our team motto before we broke every huddle was 1, 2, 3 team. So it was kind of building that mentality of a team becoming a family, which you've already built that foundation. Going into my senior year, I remember we switched it up and said, we got the team part down. Now we have to have the mentality of win. So now it was 1, 2, 3 win. And you saw that worked out pretty well. So that mental
worked out
aspect,
perfectly. We lost it for a couple of years, then got it back my senior year. But that's what we had to do. You're right.
Absolutely. So I would say then, if you can kind of toot your own, I don't want to say toot your own horn, but think about what is the greatest advantage that you think that you bring to your team?
So I think it's my mentality. I think it's who I am as a person that I try to impart on my players. Off the field, I'm not a bad guy. I'm actually just a smiling dude all day. But I think kids forget sometimes when you walk in between the whites, it's a war. It really truly is, and you have to remind them, like, it's okay to go out there and be a bully. It's okay to go out there and the Iliad starts with the word rage. Like, I tell them, like, rage is what you need out there. And they have to hear someone tell them. They have to see that fire. Like, as a teacher, if I walk in and I'm trying to teach, there's certain books I just won't teach because I hate them. The Great Gatsby, I won't teach it. I think it's awful, and I can't find love in it. But other than that, if I go into a classroom and I want to teach a book, I want to teach vocab, I got to love it more than they do. They got to see that I care about it. And when they see me out there, they know I care. I mean, I'm racing kids on the sideline, letting them know I'm better than them. I mean, they see the competitiveness of me. They see that there's no stop. There's a hate for losing, and there's a hate for not being successful. And I think the one thing I bring to them is I bring that mentality that they need, that I don't think they know they can have. I think they're afraid of it sometimes because we definitely want to raise citizens that can function in our society and be members that are contributors, but there are moments, and football is one of those moments. Sports is one of those moments where being a functioning member of society isn't what I'm looking for.
It's controlled aggression. It's
controlled hate. Rage. Yeah, controlled hate, controlled aggression, controlled rage. That's what it is. So I think I give them permission to have that. I think that it's the one thing I give them. I mean, I know what is it, 10,000 hour rule?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've had 10,000 hours since 2009. Right. I mean, I didn't have huddle for the first 5 years of my coaching career. So I'm paper and pen. I'm VHS, rewind, play 20 times. But X's and O's are X's and O's. what I call, a down block, someone else could call a scoop block, and we're going to argue all day about it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you got to get the Jimmies and the Joes to believe what they can't believe. And I bring that, I think, more times than not for these kids.
Do you think that's the biggest difference from when we played versus the kids playing now? Or what would you think is that biggest difference?
So I don't think that there's a struggle for a lot of our kids now. I mean, there was a struggle for a lot of us playing back in the 90s and the 80s and, early 2000s. Kids struggled. We struggled. We had to fight more. We had to do more. We didn't have. I mean, the kids today. It's. I hate to say the kid. I sound like Brooks from Shawshank Redemption, right? Like the world went and found itself real quick. And one day again, I'm using VHS and I'm meeting guys 40 miles out of the way to exchange tapes. And now everything's on the internet. And coaches that are just starting have huddle. And like you said, they have the analytics. I had to make all those up on my own with pen and paper. And I think the kids are missing out on that struggle. They don't have it. And that may be a good thing, right? It may be great that they don't have a struggle, right? My kid's not going to grow up having to dig holes in the backyard like me. But there's also a toughness he's missing. There's also an edge that he's not going to have. And, it may take something away from him in terms of that aggression that's sometimes needed in life.
Yeah.
And then, social media and the internet, that stuff takes away, man. It's a lot going on. Kids have a lot going on, man. Now they went through a pandemic. Yeah. I mean, holy Christmas. I mean, I know it made them tougher, but not a good tougher, man. A different type of tougher that we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, and that technology is a little different, right? Einstein warns us when the need for technology surpasses the need for us to communicate with one another, we become a society of idiots. So, yeah.
There we go. I don't disagree with that a little bit.
Absolutely. So, I always remember that the adage when we were playing ball, and I'm sure you still beat this to death, is the eye in the sky never lies. It's always that film, right?
Yeah, I use it every day.
As you should. And at Ursinus, I was a math major and a stat minor. So the numbers, I was always the numbers geek as well. And that's one thing that we learned is that the numbers never lie as well. So how are you I know you talked a little bit about huddle. Are you doing them for analytics? What are you guys kind of doing from a stat standpoint? How are you kind of looking at that?
So nowadays, before you used to have the eye in the sky on a Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. Now we have a drone. I have a drone up every day filming practice. I have an end zone camera. I mean, we're filming. The amount of hours of film that we're getting through a year now is absurd.
Wow.
I mean, it's constant. So the way I'm using the stats, especially with Athlogic, is just it's self-scouting, mm-hmm. right? And it's scouting other teams. So I take all that information and I look to see who's getting the ball the most. What are their big plays? Like where are they clipping off a ton of yards? What plays? Like, is it belly? Is it going to be jet sweep? Are they hitting us on belly pass or go routes or crossers? Like, what are their big plays? Let's figure it out. Let's use that analytic to figure out what their big plays are and how we have to stop those. Scout wise, I tell my coaches the same thing. Like, look, I know what you're going to run now because you need a whole clip of yards. You're going to run this play because that's what you get. Or I know that 24 is going to get it because, look, he gets 75% of the plays on third down. Like, I see what you're doing. Like, it's different now. So being able to use the analytics and the stats that way, we played a team 2 weeks ago, and I would say if they had 80, let's say they had 150 run plays or just offensive plays in 3 games, I would say that 120 went to 2 different players. And of those 2 players, one got it like 80% of the time, the other got it 20% of the time.
Wow.
I mean, and all we had to do was follow the one kid around the whole game. Everyone else got some yards, but no one scored. No one did what they had to do because they didn't know what to do without one getting the ball as much as he could.
Yep.
They're their best player. They're number one.
Sure.
And that's how we use the analytics. We use it to kind of tell us what we lean on the most and what other teams lean on a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you're hitting the nail on the head is that in-game management is so key. I mean, that's how you guys earn your paycheck. It's to be able to make those adjustments on the fly. So what is your kind of strategy of how you using the analytics? I think you touched a little bit on it of kind of seeing some trends and tendencies of the other teams. What do you do? What's like your biggest key for the in-game strategy?
So we definitely get our game plan going, and then as we're in game, we don't really make a lot of adjustments during that first half. Like we run our ship. We do what we do. Halftime, I think I think I have a great coaching staff. We're constantly challenging ourselves in the coaches' room. We talk football. We question it. I mean, it's a great conference room. I love it. I got great dudes. Halftime, we come together, and one of the best things I think I've done. This is probably the best staff I've ever done it with. We figure out what we're doing well, and if we're hitting everything that our stats say, if we're hitting what the analytics say, what the numbers are telling us. Like, look, here's what the numbers told us. Is it happening? If it is, we stay the course. If not, we adjust to what we thought we'd have to do. And we make those adjustments based upon what the numbers tell us and what the players are doing, obviously. But if we know they're doing something that we prepared for because we had the numbers, it's an easy, simple fix. Like, we already prepared for it. Like, we prepared for 5 or 6 things. You know, as Jay Powell, my D-line coach, Joe Powell used to tell me, look, you've got to have 3 things ready to do every play. If they're going to block you like this, what are you going to do? If you're going to get this, what are you going to do? You already have to have it done. So we plan for those type of situations. Like, this is what we think they're going to do. They might come here, and there's a possibility. And we defend and we prepare and we look to be offensive against all 3 situations just in case.
Read and react, read and react, read and react.
That's it. React.
That's how it is. Well, Ann, I don't want to take too much of your time, my man. I greatly appreciate you being the first guest on the podcast.
This is awesome.
I'm looking forward to having you back here next year to kind of talk a little more shop, see how it has changed up.
To use all those numbers we get this year and see how we can apply it to making ourselves a little more diverse, a little more than one-dimensional. That's what we are. That's the beauty of those numbers, man. We appreciate the system. We appreciate the use of what you offer. So it shows us it's another way to look at what we do and what we don't do well.
That is a true statement. I appreciate it. And the nice thing that you'll see is the compounding effect of that data over time is going to have tremendous impact on the future of the program. So I wish you continued success and continued health throughout the season, my man.
Thank you, sir. You're the best.
All right, buddy. This is Chris Orlando signing off for the Athlogic podcast. Till next time.